being satisfied is not anything anybody should ever get to. You should always be pushing a boundary somewhere, pushing an issue, pushing toward a goal, always. But there's a difference between being satisfied and experiencing satisfaction. Okay? Satisfaction is a very good thing. Now, you can go out and get that. You can go out in the world and get that. You can go out and get satisfaction, unless your desires are warped beyond belief.
Hi, I'm Parker Miley.
I'm Tim Benjamin.
And this is the Rage Podcast, where today we are going to discuss a very diverse topic, success.
Yes.
Diverse because it's a hard to define word. It's defined by everyone in a different way, too.
It is. And when it comes to success, there's some opinion in our definition of success, as well there should be.
Yeah. And now what's going to be good about this whole, us fleshing out this topic on the podcast today is Tim's going to be looking at success from a man double my age. And I'm going to be looking at success from a younger person.
Yes.
And so that, I think we'll get two good perspectives here as we kind of discuss this out. So Tim, I want to ask you, do you find yourself to be successful?
Wow, you threw that on me. How about I would say more times than not.
More times than not.
But I don't know that I necessarily define success in the way the world defines success, which I'm obviously.
We'll get into the definitions.
Look, I have a good life. I have a good place to live, and I have a good job, and I have a good family, and a great car that everyone is super jealous of, and so I enjoy all those things, and I own them. They don't own me, and I think that's important. And I have a job where I get to, on good days, make a difference, and get to be busy and making contributions that last. And I mean, all those things. I'm successful. I'm certainly not the richest guy around, and never set out to be, and I don't live in the biggest house because I don't want to, and I can't afford it either. But it's I feel good about where I'm at. I'm 47 years old. And I'm about 5 minutes from being completely old, and so it's one of these things where I feel like I have a great deal of satisfaction, and I think at my age that's how you define success.
So is that do you think because if you were to ask me if I find myself to be successul,
no, I know you're going to say no.
Absolutely
even though I don't know
not.
why.
Do you think that is because of the age?
I say that because I'm not 19 anymore. So when I was 19, I was not seeing myself as successful in anything because I was, you're at that strange age where you no longer get the benefit of being too young, but you don't get any benefit of knowing anything yet.
Yeah,
it's tough. And I didn't really grow out of that. So probably
5 minutes ago.
That's it. Sometime yesterday afternoon. So yeah, so it's one of those strange things where you come to a point of maturity where you say, well, maybe some of these things I thought made me super successful weren't exactly successful, and I look at that stuff differently now. And I think the problem is that a lot of times we enter into a new situation. I mean, and everybody does this. You enter into a new situation and you take your definition of success with you, which means if you go into this thinking, like Parker, he started this 2 years ago. If he thought, 2 years from now, I should be approximately where Billy Graham was. I mean, because that's what all these 17-year-olds think. And because I thought it too. And I think that if that's the way you're going to judge success, you're probably never going to be successful.
Yeah. So, because for me, I think a part of it is age. Tim threw out the idea earlier this morning about, let's talk about the topic of success. And I was like, right now, I want to be as far away from success as I possibly can. In meaning, I want to set a goal of success for me that is going to be
I see what you're saying.
Incredibly hard for me to ever reach. It's going to take that goal setting process of getting one step closer, one step closer, one step closer to where I want to be. Right now, I think this is a part to do with my age. Is like I have, God willing, a lot of life to live, to where hopefully I have a lot of time to get where I want to be.
Yeah, okay, all right, and I agree with you. I think here's the difference between our perspective. Because look, I used to be him, actually. I'm not always convinced that he and I are two different people. But is that because when I hear him talk, I hear my own voice from 20 years ago. But But one thing that you said that I now realize is the difference in our perspective is when you're talking about success, you think about where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk about success, I'm talking about how I'm going to get there.
Mm.
And so, yeah, do I, have I reached the pinnacle of my life yet? I certainly hope not. But at the same time, when I was younger, I thought about where I was trying to get to a lot. And, the call it the benefit of wisdom. I don't know. The degree from the School of Hard Knocks probably helps too. But eventually you're going to realize you can't always be looking at the 1,000-mile goal. Sometimes you got to be looking at the 10-feet goal and being successful in the little things. And tonight when I go to bed, I want to be able to say, well, I'm closer than what I was. Now I might only be a step closer, or a half a step closer, or a stumble closer, but I want to be closer because it's about the journey and about being successful.
So is success a journey?
I believe it is.
Okay.
Yes. Now, just think about it. Let's use sports analogy because everybody loves those. It's not like you go out on the football field and you kick off the opening kick, and the other team gets the ball, and they drive down the score. The game's not over.
Mm-hmm.
They've reached the goal, but it's not like they're like, okay, everything's sudden death now. There's a time limit, and you may have to score 4 or 5 more times depending on how the game goes in order to be successful, aka win. And I think that what we realize is the football team, the coaches and the players and all these people and even the fans have to understand that it's each individual touchdown that results in success. So you can say, hey, we're going to win the game, but if you're behind 35-0 with 30 seconds to go, it ain't looking good for you. But it's about that journey. It's about stopping them and making tackles and making blocks and all these different things that go into playing football. I think that sometimes we neglect that. So when I was your age, I was looking at the final score. Now I'm looking at the next play.
So is success a journey or a location?
It's a journey, definitely. Because if there's a single point that if I don't get to this point, I'm not successful, you set yourself up for the risk of failure just like epically. Because, what if God says, well, that's not really the goal I got for you? And how many times has God said that, even already in your life, in your young life? You thought you had it all figured out. I remember one point I was going to be a computer programmer, and God said, nah. No. And it actually took God all of a whole day, I think, to tell me that was a bad idea.
I see, for me, and again, I think this is the difference in age. I view success, and this is a part of my definition of success, I guess you could say, is when I've reached a moment in my life where I can be content. Mm-hmm. I am not content right now.
No, and you shouldn't be. I'm not either. Now, that part I agree with. I've not reached contentment. I mean, meaning, if God forbid something's happened to me at the end of the day, I will have lost potential. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will represent lost potential. Now, I won't represent as much lost potential as you would. It had to be you again, God forbid. Mm-hmm. But I still feel like I'm not satisfied where I'm at. Honestly, I got up at almost like 5 o'clock this morning, and I was at the gym and doing stuff because I feel like I'm still pursuing something. Now it's not necessarily an NFL career anymore. Don't know that it ever was. But I still want to be able to do these things. I want to be healthy. I want to be one of these people when it comes time for me to retire. I want to be able to fight back. They have to send the guys in to throw me out. I'm like, no, come on, guys, let's do this. I remember once we were playing a board game, and the question came up that said, what do you want your last words to be? And that was the question. And I said, I want my last words to be, oh, yes, I can do that. Put that on my tombstone or something. But the idea is we want to keep pushing boundaries. And I think the moment you stop doing that and you become content, you'll never chase success anymore. And I think, people who are 19, there's nothing in your life that you should be content about. Yeah. And that has nothing to do with you. It's just your station in life. There's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of growth and a lot of things that happen. 47, I still have a number, not as many as you again, but I have a number of things in front of me still. And I think that the moment you become content and say, I have arrived, is the moment you start dying.
So when can you say you're successful?
I don't know. Now, see, again, it depends on what you mean. When do I feel fulfilled, or when am I successful? I think if we're going to take that definition, I think then the good Lord is the only one who can say, well done, good and faithful servant. However, I can look at my life and say, like you were saying before we turned the camera on. Well, I preached a sermon yesterday, and the sermon went well, and then I played kickball with kids, and I did all these things. Yesterday I was here for church, and I did some things, and I interacted with some folks, and then I went grocery shopping in the afternoon, and different things that we were doing. And I think in all those things I felt very fulfilled. Probably didn't change the world, but I felt very fulfilled in those things, and I got up this morning, and so far today I've sent out a whole bunch of emails to people, and because Monday's normally my respond to email day, so if you're waiting for an email from me and you haven't gotten it yet, not looking good for you till next week. But so emails go out on Mondays, and I had to write a letter of recommendation for somebody in the congregation, and I got a few other things I'm going to work on this afternoon as far as a sermon series and different things like that. So, again, not earth-shattering stuff, but it's very fulfilling because I know that I'm setting, at least I believe, I'm setting things in motion that will pay off. Some of those things, because the sermon series I'm going to start working on is going to be a year-long sermon series. Some of that's not going to pay off until next year. So that's what I'm looking at.
The forewarning was just released about this year-long sermon series.
Yeah.
Through one book, probably.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Here it is. So, but I feel like I think one of the problems we're having is we are mistaking success, meaning I satisfied the parameters, with fulfillment. There's a lot of things in life that you can satisfy all the parameters and not feel fulfilled by it at all. That was my problem in school. I take a test, do well or not do well, but I never felt fulfilled by it because I couldn't make myself care. So, more times than not, I did well. Thank the good Lord for that. But it wasn't fulfilling. But, other times I've done mission trips and I've been places and I've worked at the church and I'm working with this guy here. And a lot of that I feel very fulfilled by, even though I look at it and say, probably that's the most radically successful thing I ever did. But I have a sense of fulfillment because it's an investment. We're setting things in motion. It may not pay off in the moment, but it eventually will mean something. Again, back to the sports analogy. You may score a touchdown 5 minutes into the game. That is irrelevant until the game's over. Because if you score that one touchdown, you're off to a good start, and the other team comes back and scores 19 unanswered touchdowns, that first touchdown's irrelevant. So, the big payoff doesn't come until a certain point in the future. It may be important, but unless there's a sense of fulfillment and a direction that goes with it.
No, this is all based upon everything you just said thus far is all based upon your definition of success.
Correct.
I could easily make my definition of success waking up and breathing. Mm-hmm. And I woke up and I breathed today, so success has been met and all these things. So I think, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves with a lot of people anymore, is that they take the definition of success and make it something attainable. And it's irritating. Yeah. Because that's just not, I don't think that's how it works. I feel like, because again, that constant working towards never being content with anything in life is the best way to live.
And that's why what frustrates this guy here more than anything else, and actually frustrates this guy here more than anything else, is people who make that, they set the fruit hanging so low that you don't even have to pick it. It kind of just falls into your hand. And this is me being successful.
It's that apple that just
people who are type A personality like the two of us, that just is nails on the chalkboard.
I had a conversation with a classmate of mine once, and he says, and we were talking about this in like a class, okay? And it was like, what is success? And he was like, well, I want to have a family. I'll be successful, I think, in my eyes when I have a family. And I talked to him and I was like, don't get me wrong. A key part of my life too is I would enjoy to have a family, all right? All right? So I agree with you on that level ground. But I was like, do you know how many people on planet Earth have a family? And
the vast majority of them.
Are you going to say, so all these people are successful? Because I'm a very bullheaded and stubborn guy, and I refuse to give anyone the credit that they might deserve.
#truth.
For me, when I hear someone saying, "Oh, I'll be successful," or "I'm successful because I did this," and I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. This doesn't stop.
And the piece of that becomes even more frustrating, building on what you just said, is again, and I know we don't want to get too far off in the weeds on this, but the definition of what it means to be good has changed. Good means not bad. That's it. Just don't be bad, and that makes you good. And I that standard is awfully low. I can remember, when I was, Parker's age, or probably a little younger than him, talking about how, what it means to be a good kid. And I had people legitimately tell me, well, if your girlfriend's not pregnant and you're not on drugs and you're not in trouble with the law, you're probably good. I'm like, really? I mean, that's it? Because that seems like what we used to expect everybody to do. So I feel like, and again, that was 25 years ago having that conversation. And I think today we look at kids, or look at not just kids, we look at everybody and say, as long as you're not bad, you're good. And I say, as long as you're not in trouble, you're successful. And I just think, gosh, what a low standard.
It's settling. And
Settling.
I hate nothing more than people
sacrificing fulfillment for settling.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
And it's such a problem I have, is just how many people are satisfied. I'm terrified of ever being satisfied. Mm-hmm. And I think like this is in my career here, all right? Take my career at church and through ministry and everything. I'm not satisfied. I don't think I ever will be as long as I'm in this field.
No, you won't be.
I'm just not going to be satisfied. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy that. Do I hate it at the same time? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because there's always, every day I wake up, there's always something else that needs to get done or something that needs to be addressed or whatever it is. There's always something to do. And would it be nice to get to a point where I could say, all right, I did a good enough job? I would enjoy that.
Yeah.
But
here's the difference though. Here's the difference between 19 and 47. Okay. I agree with you. Being satisfied is not anything anybody should ever get to. You should always be pushing a boundary somewhere, pushing an issue, pushing toward a goal, always. But there's a difference between being satisfied and experiencing satisfaction. Okay? Satisfaction is a very good thing. Now, you can go out and get that. You can go out in the world and get that. You can go out and get satisfaction, unless your desires are warped beyond belief. But for the most part, if there's a goal that you want to attain, you can go experience satisfaction without being satisfied. That's the touchdown in the first half. Satisfaction is the end of the game, which neither one of us have gotten to yet. And that's where I'm at today. Is I used to be like that too, but now I realize, okay, I can experience satisfaction and then get up and go right back at it. And I think that's what a lot of people, though they trade both satisfaction and being satisfied, they trade those for settling or not being pushed or being comfortable. That's the word we're looking for. Comfort is the enemy of success. Success is actually never comfortable unless you make that your goal, which is not a good thing to do. So, and I think along the way, though, you're going to experience satisfaction because that's what helps you know you're going toward the goal you want to attain, knowing you may not reach it.
So how do you so say someone's saying, well, I want to be successful, and they have a warped view of success, okay? How would you direct someone in a direction of success?
Counseling and mentorship. They need a counselor to talk through why they're warped, because that's not a natural place to be. God does not create people warped. The world creates people warped. And that can happen through past trauma. It can happen through unrealistic expectations. Again, a gazillion different things. Yeah. So they need counseling to deal with that, and then they need a mentor. There's the person I want to be like. Here's the person I want to be like. I'm gonna be with them, spend time with them, learn from them, because somewhere along the way somebody dropped the ball on that and did not provide that for you. So you're gonna have to deal with the trauma and heal, and then and allow some of those warped desires to flow out, because when you're healthy you don't have those. And then once you work through that, which again, we're not talking about psychopaths and murderers. We're talking, everybody has a place in their life that they're a little warped. But there needs to be healing. There needs to be counseling. Talk that through. And once that's attained, then your desires, your idea of success should be healthier. Because that's why we do these things.
Yeah.
That's why we provide, that's why we talk about mentoring here at Wayne Street so much. And I'm a part of the mentoring program here in this county because we're giving kids, hopefully, somebody they can look up to say, all right, something about them I appreciate, something about them I want to be like, and so they can leave some of those other rough edges behind and go in a better direction. Because I guess it's probably almost worse than being lazy or looking at comfort. What's actually worse than that is setting destructive goals. Yeah. We haven't even gotten into that yet. Yeah. I'm not sure we want to now, but that's actually worse. You're better off to be lazy than destructive.
Yeah.
But if you had the choice, the best thing is to be constructive.
Lazy's neutral.
Lazy's neutral. Lazy is neither bad nor good. emphasis on not good, and then obviously destructive is bad. So
when you look at that, see what's funny is when you look at that through the eyes of Christianity, and this is the scripture I was just reading before I came in here. 2 Thessalonians 3, 6 through 13 talks about the threat of laziness to the church. The disciples are all gathering together and saying, here's what we have set. We have set for you these traditions, okay? And if you can follow them and if you can uphold these, well, then you should be off to a pretty good start, all right? This is a big passage used to support kind of the tradition of church in general. Okay? So that's just what it is. And so follow these traditions and the church should stay afloat, all right? Okay. So let's look at the success of the church and the whole scheme of things, all right? Okay. As in the world. There has been a big push lately. Well, no, not lately. It's been building up for probably a couple hundred years. But you can really see it now of this kind of whole tradition thing just get thrown out the window. And
the breaking of traditions.
The breaking of traditions, okay? And again, if you ever heard me speak, I am 100% pro tradition. Doesn't matter what it is.
I can attest.
Okay? So, as I read this piece of scripture here, it goes on saying, this is the base foundation that you need to have for it to work, for you to have that satisfaction, not necessarily the success, but the satisfaction. Because I feel like there's a lot of churches where the whole group does not receive any satisfaction whatsoever. And now, you look at some of those churches where, all right, so you have your small church. Small church is less than 100 people. Okay. Regular sized church, less than 1,000 people. More than 1,000, that's a large church. 10,000 people, that's a mega church, okay? So you have all these different groups and target audiences that you're going for. And now you have these groups that are bringing in people upon people upon people upon people and all these things, and they're humongous. But they lose the aspect of what church is supposed to be. Church is supposed to be a little local fellowship of people that go through the faith together.
And live life together.
And through that, you can seek satisfaction because you know that whatever I'm going to be going through and having a burden on, well, then you probably also know that maybe there's a person that's going through the exact same thing that you can actually talk to, communicate, go have dinner, lunch with, or whatever it may be, and all those things.
And the things that you do will affect those other people. Just like any family would. And that experience of doing life together. And
that's lost.
It is lost because the more people you get together, the more difficult it is to have a common definition of success. I mean, eventually it gets to be almost impossible. There's an election going to happen tomorrow. If you want evidence of that, turn on the news and watch the aftermath of that. But the idea is it's really difficult though to maintain an aspect of success, and that's why one of the things that Jesus did is, he did the feeding of the 5,000. There's a lot of people, but how many disciples did he have again? How many was that? 12.
Yeah.
And he did that because with 12, he could have great influence over them. Even Jesus had a hard time influencing 5,000 people. He could feed them, but he couldn't direct them. He could teach them.
Yeah.
And he could affect them. He could, hopefully change them, transform them, but he couldn't sway them like he could with 12. And the reason that he did it that way is that's why he started his movement with just 12 people, and in the end he lost most of them. So the idea is he was keeping a number that he could affect. And
it goes back to you when you're talking about mentor. It's the accountability that someone's going to hold you to, right?
Yep. And a group of 12 is
and a group of 12, you can easily hold everyone accountable, right? A group of less than 50, you can hold people accountable. But once you start to expand and get larger than that almost, it's going to become very difficult because you can't check in. You can't analyze everything that's going on. And people get lost, and as a result of that lost feeling and not having any connection, you settle. That's how you get back to that.
And the greatest example of this in the entire Bible, and you know where I'm going with this, is Moses. Moses was trying to be all things for all people, and finally his father-in-law Jethro said, Moses, this ain't working. So here's what you do: get some in charge of thousands, get some in charge of hundreds, some in charge of 50, and some in charge of 10. And then you deal with those guys and let them go deal with the other stuff. And the reason that Jethro told him that was because the people were stagnating. because they couldn't get it together. Just too many people.
Yeah.
Really nobody's fault. It's too many people. And that's when Jethro said, you got to break this down to a manageable number. And that's what he did. And then all of a sudden they started to flourish, at least for a while. And as long as they maintain a definition of success given to them by the Lord, people of God flourished, always. When they got off on something else, they got complacent, they got lazy, bad things always happen. So, I mean, there's a lot of examples from the Bible we could cite where that happens, but that's the clearest one. So, join a good group. I guess that's where we're going here. Be a part of a good church. You know, of course, Parker and I are going to push Walnut Grove and Wayne Street, but there are plenty of good churches out there, depending on where you're watching this at. And we want everybody on the face of the planet to be a part of a worshiping congregation, because that is where the ultimate satisfaction is going to come from.
And yeah, it's just, and it's so. The more I think about it, how the people that are so disconnected are more disconnected than ways we actually know.
But they're the ones that will tell you they're comfortable.
Yep.
Not satisfied.
I mean,
and not experience satisfaction.
This,
but they're
this goes back to going like all the things that you're involved in too. I don't understand how you can walk through life without any connection to a organization, a group of people. And I'm not, it could be your family, but I'm talking about something that's out there. And there's just so many, and this I think is what really put the nail in this coffin was the pandemic. It shut everything. Yes. It shut everything down, and then you have to go back to this.
Put it in our face.
And so you have so many people that are just lost and disconnected and missing out on that opportunity of community and community successes, right? And all these things like, Walnut Grove and Wayne Street, they each have their individual successes on Sundays, right? Getting a good worship service, that's can be a success, and sometimes, and through missions and small groups and everything else. But I mean, it all works together for this kind of one goal that we know we are never going to get to on earth. That's the mission of the church, is this goal that we all have set to bring everyone to Christ. And we know, when you really think of it, we'll never get there.
So we left worship. Parker and I both left worship yesterday. I mean, he was here for a little bit, and he was out at Walnut Grove, and I was here. And we both left worship yesterday experiencing satisfaction, but we were not satisfied, because there's going to be another church service in 6 days. So it's all about pushing toward the next goal, and that's how we grow. And that's what we want for all of you. And that's why being a part of a local congregation that is engaged in mission is so important. Because it's when you start to see the world become less warped. We're bringing this completely full circle. Less warped because of your presence. Satisfaction doesn't get much better than that. To realize that there was something bad going to happen and you intervened and was able to point a life or point a situation in a better direction. It's gravy. It's a good thing. So
don't settle.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. If you have successfully made it through the half hour of this podcast, we appreciate you. And just hang in there, because, there's a lot of things not going well right now. But the only way to make sure it never goes well again is to give up. Success is out there, friends. Go get it. Have a great week.